Hello, my name is Kyle JQs. Today I'll be presenting my capstone project, The Price of Premium, an analysis of hospital markups and quality. I'll be walking you through a five-part story. We'll start with the central questions I aimed to answer. We'll look at the surprising answers the data provided. We'll then investigate the drivers of price. We'll uncover the value trade-off that this data reveals. And finally, we'll conclude and move on to an interactive dashboard. We all go to the hospital assuming that a higher price means better care. But does it? Is that assumption true? My project was designed to answer three central questions. Are hospitals with higher markups more likely to have better quality, like lower readmission and mortality rates? How do factors like hospital size and ownership type relate to these costs and quality outcomes? And how does patient satisfaction fit into this picture? Before we dive in, let's align on a few key terms. First, costs. This is what the hospital pays for services and staff. Second, charges. This is the sticker price, what the hospital bills to the patient or insurer. Most importantly, markup percentage. This is a critical metric for my analysis. It's how many dollars a hospital charges for every $1 of actual cost. For example, a 300% markup means a hospital charges an additional $3 for every $1 of cost. Finally, the quality metrics we're using to gauge hospital performance. For mortality and readmission scores, lower is better. For patient satisfaction or overall hospital rating, these are aggregate patient survey scores, with 0 being the worst and 100 being the best. So, to our first central question: does a high markup get you better care? The data gives us a two-part answer. First, I looked at the relationship between financials and clinical safety. This heat map shows the correlation between costs, charges, and markups versus hospital mortality and readmission scores. The key takeaway: there is no meaningful relationship. The correlation between markups and mortality is a negligible negative 0.14. For readmissions, it's a tiny 0.15. The numbers for raw costs and charges per discharge are even closer to zero. This is our first major finding. Price is completely decoupled from clinical safety. You do not get a safer hospital by paying more. So, if price doesn't get you better safety, does it at least get you a better patient experience? Here, the answer is even more surprising. No, it's linked to a worse experience. This chart plots every hospital's markup percentage against its overall patient satisfaction rating. The trend is clear and statistically significant. As markups go up, patient ratings tend to go down. So, to summarize our answer, high prices don't get you better safety, and they're actively linked to a worse patient experience. This leads to the obvious next question. If price isn't driven by quality, what are the most significant contributors? The data reveals two primary drivers: business strategy and cost management. First, let's look at ownership on the left. The single biggest driver of markups is being for profit or proprietary ownership. On average, for profit hospitals charge $5.27 in addition to every $1 of cost, a 527% markup. Compare that to government hospitals, which charge just 96 cents over every dollar spent. And this isn't because for profits have better quality, I checked, and the quality indicators are nearly identical. This difference is driven by business model. For profit hospitals have the lowest operating costs and the highest charges per discharge. Second, look at location on the right. Urban hospitals have significantly higher markups than rural ones. But interestingly, my analysis showed their charges per discharge are roughly the same. The difference is that urban hospitals have lower operating costs, allowing them to leverage those charges into a higher markup. And this theme that business models, not quality, drive financials holds true when I look at facility type as well. My analysis showed that different hospital types have completely different financial models. For example, short term hospitals have the highest markups because they have the lowest costs. Critical access hospitals have the lowest markups because they have the highest costs. And children's hospitals have the highest average charges of all with a medium markup. These are three totally different business strategies, yet the available data shows that their clinical quality indicators are roughly the same. Once again, the financial structure is completely disconnected from the quality of care. So, we've established that a high price is the wrong metric for choosing a hospital, but the data did reveal a real trade off that patients and policymakers need to understand. And that's the trade off between scale and experience. This chart shows quality metrics across hospitals of different sizes. On the one hand, if you want the best clinical safety, the lowest mortality scores shown in red, your best bet is a very large hospital with over 50,000 annual discharges. But if you want the best patient experience, the highest satisfaction rating shown in blue, you'll most often find that at very small hospitals. My analysis also showed these small hospitals have the highest operating costs, suggesting that this high touch patient experience may be more expensive to deliver. To confirm these findings, I built a predictive regression model. I asked it a simple question: what factors can statistically predict a hospital's markup? The number one predictor by far is being for profit, which adds over 440 points to a hospital's markup. Being in an urban location and having a larger scale also significantly increase markup. And what about our key quality metrics? A better patient rating is actually linked to a slightly lower markup. The mortality score was found to have no statistically significant impact on price, while markup related somewhat to a worse readmission score. This is the quantitative proof that a hospital's price is a business decision, not a reflection of its quality. So, to conclude, my analysis found that price is a business decision, not a quality signal. It's unrelated to clinical safety and negatively tied to patient satisfaction. The real drivers are ownership and cost structure. For profit status and lower urban costs create the highest markups. And finally, the real choice for patients is a trade off between clinical safety of large scale hospitals and the positive experience of small scale ones. This leads to clear recommendations. For routine care, a nonprofit may offer better value. For complex, life saving care, a large scale hospital is statistically the safest bet. And for all stakeholders, we must stop using price as a proxy for quality. You don't necessarily get what you pay for. Thank you for joining me on this journey to explore national hospital data. To make these insights actionable for stakeholders and patients, I've created a 3-page interactive dashboard to explore some of the details of this data. We'll now take a look at that dashboard. This first dashboard is the value map. Every dot is one of the nearly 4,500 hospitals in the dataset. On the x axis from left to right, we have the markup percentage. Further right means a higher markup. On the y axis from bottom to top, we have patient satisfaction. Higher is better. The color represents ownership type, and these KPI cards near the top show the median for every hospital we're currently viewing. In the presentation, I said the biggest driver of price is ownership, and we can see that instantly. The red proprietary or for profit dots are clustered on the far right, proving they have the highest markups. But notice they are not clustered at the top. Their patient ratings are average or below. Let's use the filters to prove this. Right now, the median markup for all hospitals is almost 248%. But if we go to the ownership filters and filter only for proprietary, we can see that the markup percentage has gone up to over 527%. but the median patient mortality and readmission scores have barely changed. Now let's look only at government ownership. So now I've filtered only for government facilities. We can see the markup has dropped to 96%, but the patient rating, mortality, and readmission scores again are nearly identical. This is interactive proof that you are paying for the business model, not for better quality. My next dashboard explores the trade off that I mentioned: scale versus experience. This map shows clinical safety by state, but the real story is in our filters. In the presentation, I said the largest hospitals are the safest, but the smallest have the best patient experience. Let's test that. I'm going to go to the size filter to show only the smallest hospitals. And we can see now that the patient rating is pretty high at 93, but the mortality score is 4.4, actually slightly worse than the national median. Now, if I filter only for the largest hospitals, we can see that mortality is now 3.3, which is a 25% improvement, but patient rating has actually dropped by 5 points. This is a real choice that patients and policymakers face. You can't just follow the money. You have to choose between scale for safety or small hospital feel for experience. But what if we just want to find the best hospitals? We have filters for that as well. So I'm going to go to mortality compared to national and filter only for better than the national rate. Likewise, on the readmission comparison filter, I'll show only better than the national rate. And just like that, we filtered from almost 4,500 hospitals down to the 52 hospitals that are demonstrably better than the national average for both key safety metrics. And just like we discussed in the presentation, this collection is comprised almost entirely of larger hospitals, despite not having actually filtered for size this time. Now, the KPI cards show us the median markup, costs, and charges per discharge for this elite group, which are actually pretty close to the national median. My final dashboard is an actionable tool that puts these insights to good use. It's a simple, searchable table that lets you, as a policymaker, employer, or patient, find a hospital that matches your specific priorities. Let's put this all together in a real world scenario. Let's imagine I'm a patient in Texas, and my priority is value. I want a high quality nonprofit hospital. First, I'll go to the state filter and filter only for Texas. Then I'll go to ownership type and filter to show only nonprofit facilities. I only want the best. So for the mortality comparison, I'm going to show only facilities with better than the national rate. And finally, I can look at the charges per discharge and markup columns to find the highest quality options near me with the best value. Or if I just want to check my local hospital, I can go over here to the search bar and type it in and see how it compares on some of these metrics. This dashboard and the analysis behind it prove that by leveraging and integrating complex data, we can all make more informed decisions about the true cost and quality of care. Thank you.